also many of you have maintained being part of the evolution of that. So that's what I'm going to go over in this presentation today is going to do some verbal updates on kind of the big picture. I do have a visual for you, but mostly going to kind of go through some quick verbal updates on, what those changes have been. And so basically every year we meet with the key folks, many of you from each of the jurisdictions, and get a handle on, what segments are coming along, what's been completed, are there plan trails where maybe the plan has changed or evolved, or maybe a new plan trail has been added. And so just kind of working through all that. And then I think a few other folks are going to follow me and be able to go into more specific jurisdiction updates. I'm going to do kind of the regional big picture trends to give you a sense for things. So on this landing screen that you see, wanted to give you a sense for the look of the numbers over the years. So when we first launched the map in 2017, we had about 394 existing multi-use trails that were part of the network, and we had about 295 plan miles for a total of about 690 total vision miles. And then that has really increased from year to year and changed in lots of ways that I'll give you this year's update. But so looking at 2024, we're looking at 547 existing miles and really 548 existing miles, and then planned about 491 planned miles for a total of over 1,000 miles for our network. So a huge increase kind of in the total vision miles for the network. I do want to note, and I'll say it a couple more times just so it's really clear, the existing number doesn't necessarily equate to if you do the division there, or the subtraction there between 2024 existing and 2017 existing, doesn't necessarily mean that many have been built. There was some just existing ones that weren't considered part of the network, and then jurisdictions decided to add them. So this isn't exactly, like a one for one. There's a lot of complexity, and that's why there's nuance kind of within each jurisdiction. And if you have specific questions that don't get answered in this meeting, you can always follow up with us, and we can go into the spreadsheets from year to year and kind of help kind of define any of that nuance or complexity. But I just don't want anyone to just take those numbers and think that it's straightforward, because I know most of you know it's not straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to move over. Let's see if it'll let me.
Can we ask, are we able to ask? Just like we were able to say net 200 miles of new trails-ish, if not 250. Is that right?
No, again, I wouldn't say that. I can get you what that number is.
Big number, yeah.
But I wouldn't say that it's that number, just because there were some, let me go back, sorry. Let me get this recording notification.
How much should we not take this number?
Yeah, that's not the exact number. I can work on getting us those numbers, because again, there was some that some of the jurisdictions just hadn't submitted as existing. So some of them were just already there. They just weren't added as part of the network from the get-go, just because there was, different jurisdictions kind of at different places in their own process. And so they may not have submitted their existing miles or their planned miles for that matter, back in 2017. So to truth it, we kind of have to go like year by year where we track all of that. So that's where the nuance comes in. But yeah, if we want those numbers, we can definitely work on that. But yeah, I just don't want anyone to take that. That would be a logical thing to look at and do, but this is not nothing about this map has ever been simple. So it becomes very complicated very quickly.
And Liz, John Corn by AAA, in the plan number, I remember you had a criteria buildable within 10 years. And we like that. And we did that when we did the Anne Arundel Trail Network. Do you still use that? So like in the plan number, versus the aspirational? I mean, you see bike ped plans that have all this aspirational stuff that much of it is a dream, versus the stuff that really has a shot at getting built. You still apply that 10-year criteria?
I think it is generally applied, meaning like these are just to go, yeah, it's a good question, and thanks for flagging that, John. That inspired you guys. That's really great to hear. So I would say we're using it loosely to mean like these are actually in plans, right? Because when we started the CTC, um, gosh, now or what are we at? 8, 9 years ago. There was ideas for projects, there was a lot more lines drawn on here. And those projects were not like in any kind of official plan. So when we first launched this, we actually showed like all the potential little segments, and you could literally just draw like 1,000 more lines all over this map. And so a lot of them were just like literally lines people had drawn in meetings. They weren't really proven projects that were making it into plans. So I would say loosely 10 years, but we know a lot of projects. I'm actually working with David on David Ballack on a project that he knows has already gone on 20 years, but I think has a real reality to happen, right? So I would say loosely, but it really means like it's in a plan, a jurisdiction is actively working to move it through the system.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, the distinction that we make here sometimes is planned versus programmed. Programmed meaning there's a defined project, it's in a capital plan. It may still be a long range thing, but as opposed to planned, which can be very, very aspirational.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think, and Bob has his hand raised. I think Bob has educated us on that too, that a lot of them are in plans and some of them are maybe not quite that far, but they're not just ideas either. So I think we've taken sort of mostly in plans, and some are further along than just they're not, more than just someone's idea, but they may take a bit longer. Bob?
I think this is a good discussion, but I think in reality, the different jurisdictions set their own criterias in their planning processes. So it's really hard to make it mean the exact same thing in each jurisdiction. So, and they may change that over time. In the past, in Prince George's, our approved master plan of transportation was super aspirational. To the point of being a little unrealistic at some point, and yet it was in a approved plan. So in our jurisdiction, because being in a master plan means that if you draw a line near property that's being developed, they have to build that line. So there was a lot of drawing lines in case development happened. But it's hard to predict development. It certainly doesn't come about within a 10-year time frame, which, John, I think is very reasonable criteria, but it's just that everybody kind of sets up their own planning rules differently and may even use different terms. I want to propose that we have both planned and proposed trails because it would be nice to have something that was a little more realistic and not lose the aspirational completely.
Yeah, I think that's right, Bob. Thanks for laying all that out. I think we have a good combination, and I think every year that we do this, we truth these projects a bit more and more each year. So that's what I'm gonna go over for you. Okay, so Callie had this great idea to have a slide that showed you the difference. So so this is looking at 2017 on the that you see this kind of the original network, what it looked like. So green being existing, yellowish, goldish color being planned. And then if I slide over, you can see a lot more planned coming online and a lot more green coming online. You see a lot more planned coming, more green kind of coming in the middle. Good job, DC. A lot of green coming on in the Virginia side. So you can see the growth there. So I'm gonna go over a few notes I have that kind of summarize this year's update. So I went over the big picture with you. So since 2017, we've seen about a 39% increase in existing mileage. We did strategic adjustments to the plan trails with about 491 of those reflecting, like we just talked about, like better feasibility, better alignment. We've seen, this big growth I just showed you both in the existing and the plan. That's really a testament to our collective commitment to get this network, to grow and evolve and ultimately get done. So for this past year, here are some of the highlights for Fairfax County. They added on an additional nearly 25 miles of new trails, including the opening of the Route 7 side path and substantial progress on the 66 parallel trail, which is both great projects. Prince George's County added about 3.5 miles of existing trails and prioritized another almost 26 miles of planned trails, focusing on key projects like the Maryland 210 Trail and Pope's Creek Corridor. Arlington added critical urban connectors, including Long Bridge Drive multimodal connection, and DC is doing quite a bit. And we know there's great work happening to finish the Met Branch, for example. Also of course, a great ongoing collaboration with National Park Service. And so had an update on the Capitol Crescent Trail. Additionally, several counties adjusted trail names and alignments, ensuring clarity and enhancing connectivity across the boundaries. And we know that Montgomery County is planning a comprehensive audit for fall winter of 2024 and 2025. Prince George's has, a lot of robust planning initiatives going on, looking at future growth. And so still really kind of focusing on, key plan projects that will get done over there to really finish out more equitable connectivity throughout our region. So those are just kind of like I said, this is really big picture. I think there are a few folks slated to kind of go after me. I'm happy to leave this map up if that's helpful, or zoom in for the folks that are from the jurisdictions that want to talk through maybe some more details on their end that can add that nuance that I've been talking about, where, adding doesn't necessarily mean something got built. Oh, I'm sorry, I do have a couple other numbers to illuminate some of the updates over the years. So
Should we
just
just
to
be
go-
seeing the map, Liz? Should we? is it
What was
just the
that?
map? Are we just looking at the map right now? Or did you have slides that are reference what you're talking about, or is it still just the map of the 2017, 2024?
Oh yeah, no, just looking
Okay.
at the map. Yeah.
Great.
But I do wanted to highlight a couple of just changes. Like if we go back to 2022, we had, let's see, we were totaling at about 997 miles of total trails. We were at about 495 miles of existing, which was up from 2017, where we started at 394 miles of existing, and then we went to 501 planned miles, way up from the initial inclusion in 2017 of 295. So just wanted to give you like a snapshot back from from maybe a little bit over 2 years ago, from 2022, so you can see how some of this has changed. But I think what would be really helpful now that you have the big picture, I can answer more questions, but like I said, I think the folks that are prepared to talk about some of the changes from their jurisdictions can give you some good examples of how adding things doesn't necessarily mean something 500 miles magically got built overnight, which we know is difficult to do. But if there's any other questions, happy to answer those.
Thanks, Liz. I am just so excited about the growth of the network, and I feel like surpassing 1,000 miles feels really big. So I think I have a section as time allows, to get into some plans for 2025, and that's something that I'd really like to talk about is how we can be highlighting those numbers, because I think just being able to say more than 1,000 miles carries weight for folks that aren't thinking about the day-to-day details. So maybe save that, let it marinate a little bit, and I want to keep moving with our great presentations today. Liz, thank you again. And I also want to acknowledge that there are a lot of people in the room right now who are here when the CTC was founded, who have been working on this network since before there was a map. So Liz, Laurel, so many of you who have been a part of this work from the early years. I've been fantastic. I hope that the momentum just continues to grow in future years.
Guys, just trying to, I mean, I feel like every now and then you see news of like a new city or a new urban area, and they've come up with a trail plan, right? And it's, it'll be, oh, and they're envisioning, 250 miles of trail. And it's like, we look at our map and it's like, wow, like we're already there, times 3, times 4. And so, it really like, don't sleep on just like how ambitious this is and really how much progress we've made. I mean, truly the envy of, of trail networks across the country. They may have certain strengths, here and there, but really the sheer volume of what we're talking about right now and what's already on the ground. Yeah, there's gaps. We know that. We're working on that. But yeah, just a moment to just reflect and think. It's come a long way. It's come a long way. Thanks to a lot of folks here. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Liz. See if I don't know how to do social media, but if there's a way to do a GIF or a GIF with the slide over from where we were to where we have, where we started, I think that'd be really compelling.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I will. Oh, let me poke some people here. That's a great idea. Thank
Or it can be static, it doesn't have to move. But with an eye on the clock here, wanted to move on to our second presentation. I have Laurel slated up next, so I can pull up some slides. Is that good? Oh, all right. Yes, I have slides to share here. And let me just get into presentation mode. Oh, I think.
One minute, folks. We lost our Zoom connection here on the presentation screen, but give us just 1 minute here.
We got it on the screen, Callie. On the screen.
Ooh, let's see.
Oh, yeah, it's like your deal.
There you go.
My chip eating is too loud. Is it for the Zoom call? Are you folks? Is it?
I don't hear it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Speakers are.
Every hybrid meeting, I'm like, am I making too much noise? I'm almost done.
Recording in progress.
All right, we're back in business here.
Okay.
No, it was good because I had it.
Okay, all right, we're gonna try that again. Sorry about that. I don't know why it did not like.
Share.
Yeah.
Let's see, just want to make sure the PowerPoint is pulled up again. Thank you for hanging with me here.
It's not that one up there.
Nope.
There we go.
Nope.
Hope we're seeing your Zoom.
Stop. Where'd it go?
Try clicking on it. Let's click on the application window.
Oh, here. I
Yeah,
see.
Just really. There it is.
Sorry,
All right.
this is not my finest moment. All right,
I can see it.
okay. I'm gonna try again.
Go. There we go. All right, we are in the, we're seeing.
We need to swap. Okay,
Yeah, it's the.
all right,
Oh, now you're good.
all right.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
They can only see your screens.
Thank you for everyone bearing with us on our tech issues. The Park Service likes to make it a little complicated. So I'm Laurel Hamig. I'm a planner in our regional office, and I'm here to give some trail related updates. Please. As hopefully everyone is familiar, you know, plan, operate, maintain, fund, and execute trail projects for our network within the urban core, which is a little over 100 miles of existing trail. Please. Our program is really based on the 2016 paved trails study, which came out with over 100 recommendations, both capital projects and programmatic recommendations broken out between many different categories. Next slide, please. Also broken out between our administrative units for capital related projects, and then for programmatic related projects, there are a variety, including the trail count program that I'll talk about in a little bit. So one of the updates I have for the group today, next slide please, is that we just kicked off internally our paved trail plan update. So we're very excited about this. I'm a planner, so I love plans. And this is not like a wholesale re-looking at every individual project, because the 2016 plan did such a great job at that. But that effort was really kind of more qualitative because we didn't have a lot of quantitative data. So this kind of refresh update that we're doing right now is focused on incorporating our quantitative criteria, and then we will reprioritize and come out with a new set of projects. Also, welcome the opportunity to check off all of the wonderful work that we've accomplished since 2016. So some of those, oops, if you could go back. So some of the criteria, the quantitative criteria that we're looking at are condition data. So we have a data bicycle and a consultant on board who's gonna go ride our trails and get condition data, which we're pretty excited about. We're gonna incorporate safety and crash data, look at equity investment strategies, and that will help us in our prioritization. And then finally usage, which ties into my update about our trail count program. So yeah, next slide. So as many of you I'm sure are familiar, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, NPS now in partnership with DDOT as well, formed a partnership with the UNC Chapel Hill Highway Safety Research Center, Virginia Tech's local Alexandria campus, and Portland State, to develop one of the most comprehensive regional trail count programs in the country. Our university partners help with coordination, maintenance and sightings of new counters, the database and the public dashboard, which is Portland State's kind of contribution, and then analysis and reporting. So a little bit more about the trail count program and the maintenance. We knew going in, maintenance was going to be a really big deal, and it continues to be a huge effort to maintain working automated counters. So our university team helps troubleshoot problems. They help do some minor maintenance, and they help with validation, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. As well as help cite new counters. And I have an example of how that's important coming up, but we do have 6 counters slated to come through this program in 2025. We also are incorporating new counters where it's feasible and it makes sense on all of our like trail projects. So it makes sense as we're rehabbing Oxen Cove that includes a new counter install. So that's not on the list because those are discrete, what's on the slide right now are discrete counter installations. The Oxen Cove and others go in as part of the overall trail rehab. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the maintenance work just in the last quarter. So it covers everything from replacing batteries to removing wasp nests to troubleshooting modems to going out and manually collecting data if the counters are counting accurately but not sending that data to the dashboard. So the team really does a lot and covers the whole gamut of necessities to keep them up and running, which is kind of a constant undertaking. Validation. So why is this important? We want to make sure our counters are giving out the best data that we can. So we know that bad data equals bad decisions. So making sure that the counters are accurately counting, in this case, in most cases, bicycles and pedestrians. So this is something also that requires kind of a lot of time and attention. It's mostly driven by a master's student from Virginia Tech. And I think the next slide. Yeah, well, we can talk about that. So this involves going out, making sure that that the counters are accurately counting the bicycles and the pedestrians. And there are a variety of reasons that it might not, that I mentioned a little bit earlier in the maintenance slide. You know, batteries are a constant issue, insects, humans get involved. You know, there could be a lawnmower that, you know, damages the equipment, or, you know, some vandalism, water damage, so yeah. It also is not always clear when you're looking at the data that it isn't reporting accurately. So if it's overcounting, you know, if it's confusing bikes and peds, if it's overcounting by 1 or 2, then you can't always count on just looking at the computer to see if there are issues. Next slide, please. So this shows the validation framework and kind of the step-by-step process that the team goes through to make sure that our counters are counting the best that they can. This has been very important from day one, but in the more recent years, the master's student has really taken it the next level and done some, and is working on some research projects. So one is they're working on correction factors. So if we know there's an issue, if we know, you know, it overcounts bikes by 10%, they can apply on the back end or correction factor, and then we get more accurate information. The second piece, though, is how often does the counter need to be validated to apply those correction factors? So over time, does the counter kind of stop working? Is it, you know, great after a year, and then after 18 months, it needs another look? These are great kind of research questions that will hopefully improve our program and make us more efficient in the future. And then finally, they've done a great job recently at incorporating video technology. So really incorporating new technology, using some video tools to supplement the validation process, again, to make our program more efficient. And then we also have a PhD student on board who's looking at incorporating big data and doing some estimating and modeling of the whole network. He does a lot of great technical work and reports on that at our quarterly meetings. So if anyone is interested in attending those who haven't already, please let me know. We're happy to have everyone, and he is much better at explaining his work than I am. So a little plug for that. Next slide, please. The public dashboard I mentioned that Portland State maintains has a lot of great information. It has a public component to it. So if you're not already aware that that's out there, please go and take a look at that. The URL is on the slide. And then for counter owners, there are additional resources that are available on the back end. Next. So, you know, just a couple lessons learned. This is a great example of where validation came, that wasn't kind of initially visible, just looking at the numbers on the dashboard. So on the left, this is, on the Mount Vernon Trail, one bike was counted as one pedestrian, and then on the right, one bike was counted as two bikes. So, great that, we took a look at that and we fixed it. Next slide, please. This is another lesson learned for, why having knowledgeable people citing the counters is important. This is an example on Piney Branch where the pyro is, facing toward the road. So it's counting, all of the cars going by as pedestrians. So, it was simply moved, reinstalled on the other side of the trail facing the other direction, and the bottom graph shows a much more accurate depiction of our users. So this is a very exciting, so kind of transitioning now to, an upcoming project that I'm very excited about. Thinking about the early days of the Trail Coalition, I started my job in 2016, and I think Beth Porter and Katie Harris and I had a meeting about this project in the very early days of this job. So we are hopefully by the end of the year scheduled to finish the rehab of Oxen Cove Trail, which is down in Prince George's County near the Oxen Hill Farm. And it will include, and it's hard to see on the slide, sorry, but the installation of a new bridge that will connect. So the bridge is in, I've seen it, it looks wonderful. So it will connect the Forest Heights neighborhood to the rest of the Oxen Cove Trail as well over to DC and ultimately South Cap. So so incredibly excited if we get a couple of days of good weather. The very last piece is the rehab of is the paving of the trail. And so we just need weather to cooperate and it'll be done by the end of the year.
Ready to celebrate.
So, yes. So wanted to plug that. Next slide. Here's just an updated list. I know, I think my colleagues and I gave a similar presentation in 2023. We still have a lot of the same projects in the design and compliance. Design and compliance takes a long time, a significant amount of time in the project development process. But happy to take any questions and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. All right.
What does the Trails Coalition have planned to celebrate the Oxen Cove Trail? I know a lot of folks here, are excited to celebrate.
Yeah, we are too. So would love to collaborate.
I know we've been speaking a little bit with the mayor in Forest Heights. So definitely thinking about how can we help bring our municipalities as well as efforts from the NPS. So I know we are also planning our Celebrate Trails Day celebration. We have been partnering on a cleanup on the cove. It also highlights the trails. So I think lots of opportunities, maybe a ribbon cutting as well as Earth Day, Trail Day celebrations.
I'll just, Eric Brenner typed this in just now. The September 11th National Memorial Trail is considering adding a bike ride to their annual Pentagon Walk. And one of the things he's talked to me about is the potential for a loop ride from the mall down to Oxen Cove and coming back over the Wilson Bridge and up to the Pentagon. So yeah, lots of exciting opportunities to maybe highlight this connection.
Oh, now I have two screens. Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much, Laurel. That is great. All right. Thank you very much. See another comment from Jim. Can you read that one out?
Jim just says a great presentation.
Okay.
The Trail Count program is legit, which it is.
Awesome. Great. Well, I think with that, we are ready to move on to our presentation from Fairfax County. Sandy, you're up.
All right. Can everybody hear me, see me? I am sharing the slide deck now, so you should be able to see it in a moment.
Yep, we can see screen.
Great, 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 great. All right, so good afternoon. I'm Sandy Clanfer. I'm with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation, and I'm here today to provide an update on the active Fairfax planning effort that we're currently in the middle of. So today I'll give you some background on the project. I'll give you an update on our planned active transportation and trail network. I'll give you a look at our active transportation toolkit, and then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So with that, let me start by talking about the project background. Fairfax County has multiple long-range plans that include trails. That includes the countywide trails plan, the bicycle network plan. We have special area plans for activity centers. We have a parkland master plan. So currently, this active Fairfax plan is in the process of updating and combining the trails plan and the bicycle plan into what we're calling the active transportation and trail network plan. So when we talk about active transportation for the purposes of this plan, we're talking about all forms of non-motorized travel for recreational purposes or to get from point A to point B. That includes walking, it includes cycling, it includes rolling for those who are in wheelchairs. We also include electric micromobility devices such as electric scooters and bikes. So this is a vision of uh, active transportation as an integral part of a complete transportation system. And the goal is that residents and visitors to Fairfax County will connect conveniently to places of employment, schools, transit, medical care, and recreational and cultural resources on foot, on bike. And so we're really trying to serve everyone here. That includes more vulnerable road users, such as folks with disabilities, seniors, children, caregivers. Uh, in and plan even includes trail facilities for hiking and equestrian use. So this is designed to be a plan for everyone. So as I mentioned, part of the purpose of this project is to update and to streamline all of the various active transportation plans, policies, design, best practices, programs. Uh, the the goal includes planning a connected and comfortable network for active transportation and trail users of all ages and abilities, providing guidance for future active transportation facility planning, developing recommendations for programs and policies that support active transportation use and active transportation safety. So this project started back in 2020. We undertook a comprehensive review of the existing planned network of active transportation facilities. We streamlined duplicates. We filled in network gaps. I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail momentarily, but we did an existing conditions review. We did community engagement. We developed vision, goals, objectives. we have done a variety of different things. Right now, we're at the point at which we're requesting public feedback on our proposed network. I'll tell you a little more about how you can participate in that at the end of the presentation. So here's where we're at right now. We are currently working on updating the planned active transportation and trails network. We're developing an active transportation toolkit, program and policy recommendations, and this is all expected to conclude in 2025. So as we've gone through this process, we've done several rounds of community engagement. This is from our first round of community engagement back in 2021, and we asked the community about their priorities. And you can see here we got connectivity is a big priority, safety is a big priority. People want sidewalks, better crossings, more bike lanes, more trails. So this has informed the entire project moving forward in terms of everything from the vision, goals, objectives to the network development. So this was something that we wanted to share with you. With that, I'd like to go into a little more detail about how we're updating that planned active transportation and trail network. So this was a multi-step process where we started with the existing trails network plan and bike network plan that we already had, and we combined them. We added public input. We consolidated routes that were overlapping. We then looked at where there were still gaps in the network and found ways to fill them. We reviewed for conflicts and found alternative routes where we could. Then we identified trail network routes. We identified along with the enhanced neighborhood routes and the regional routes, which are the classifications of active transportation routes that Active Fairfax is using. And now, as I mentioned, we're in the process of asking for public feedback on that. We've had a bunch of public meetings, both virtual and in person, as well as pop-up events. Once we are finished with that public engagement, which is wrapping up this month, we're going to take that feedback, use it to revise our draft network. We're going to be initiating a comprehensive plan amendment because the goal of this is to be part of the county's comprehensive plan, as the bike network map and trails network map that we currently use are, and that will require a public hearing. So that gives you a sense of how we're moving forward with the network plan update. So we have, as part of this update, we've developed a comprehensive countywide trail network, and this is expanded. I'll show you the map in a moment, and that's going to be the foundation of our updated countywide trail network in Fairfax County. Do note that some of the regional trails aren't eligible to be included in that network because they're natural surface or they're not wide enough. We also have stream valley trail networks. We also have designated bicycle routes on low stress streets, and these are kind of as a standard facility, these are neighborhood greenways or bicycle boulevards. Where space allows, these may have bike lanes, but the idea is that we have a network of low stress streets that are easy for folks of all ages and abilities to bike on. And so this gives you a sense of how we're expecting our capital trail network proposal to expand. As you can see, the gray lines are the current capital trail network routes, and the proposed new routes are in that pink. Obviously, this is still subject to change as we go through this public comment process. But this should give you a sense of how we're looking to the future. So this toolkit, this plan also includes many other programmatic policy planning efforts. I've mentioned all ages and abilities as our design focus. And that's something that is new to active transportation planning in the county. Another thing that we're trying to do is we're offering as part of this plan facility selection guidance for all roads in the county, and that's based on the average daily traffic, the speed limit, the number of travel lanes. It provides a kind of a menu of possibilities that planners can choose from as roads are being designed or redesigned to be implemented as we go through that process. I do want to note that this is a visionary network. There's currently no dedicated funding available for implementation. We will have a list of recommended priority projects. Projects will be prioritized for funding based on the criteria that we're already using to prioritize projects as funding becomes available. And once funding becomes available for a particular project, it generally takes us about 3 to 5 years on average to actually implement. So before I wrap up, let me briefly touch on the active transportation toolkit that we've developed as part of Active Fairfax. So the goal is to support active transportation planning efforts and the implementation of planned facilities, and it includes planning and implementation guidance on active transportation facility selection and design and best practices, and a collection of relevant design and policy resources. So with that, let me thank you for inviting me today to talk about our work. And as I mentioned, we're still accepting public comment through December 20th. You can provide that comment by going to our project website or emailing us at activefairfax, that's all one word, at fairfaxcounty.gov. So with that, if folks have questions, I'd love to hear them.
Thanks, Sandy. We've got a question here in the room. Peter?
Sandy, you said that there's no funding for anything. Are there any projects that are in the capital budget now that are listed as sort of part of this plan to be implemented?
So we are implementing improvements for active transportation. That's a process that is ongoing and continuous and includes everything from new sidewalks and trails to improving crosswalks. And that funding is that's county funding, and basically funding to implement the projects in active Fairfax will depend on the Board of Supervisors here in the county continuing to provide funding for active transportation improvements. But that is a choice that they will have to make.
So it's like there are projects moving that
Correct.
have transportation components like now. I mean, Gallows Road. I do think there is a little bit of a, I think, trying to thread this needle. And Sandy, I've talked to some of your FCDOT colleagues about this dynamic of right. You have projects that are moving that by the time they do get built, presumably will be at the same time where we have these new standards, and are we making sure that like whatever we're doing, proposing for say Gallows Road, right there, that's being studied right now. Whatever happens with Gallows Road, like it would probably behoove us to make sure that it's to the standards that we know are going to be coming shortly down the line, because sort of the last thing we want to do, right, is to have go through all this effort, make all these changes, build a facility, and then, you know, by the time it opens, it's like, oh, but actually that's already sort of out of date, right?
What I can tell you is that internally we are already looking at active Fairfax as a reference as we go through the process of implementing active transportation upgrades. So, you know, we're not only thinking about, okay, what does the current comprehensive plan have to say about this? We're also looking at what does active Fairfax have to say about this? What does active Fairfax say should be built here? Because we know that by the time these projects actually get built, that active Fairfax will be a completed process.
Couple of other hands in here. John, you're up first.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. You opened talking about e-bikes and other micromobility devices. What's the perspective on allowing all those different types of devices on the shared use paths? Here our mantra has been manage the behavior, not limit the device. We want to continue to welcome all devices and try to have good behavior among all the device users. Just wonder what your perspective is in Fairfax.
We take a very similar perspective. We see those devices, we see e-bikes and similar devices as a one part of the transportation puzzle that some people are going to use. And as with any mobility device, from cars on down, some people are going to misuse those devices, and we need to be designing facilities that we can design facilities that promote proper use, and we can use enforcement as well to promote proper use, and education as well to promote proper use of those devices. But I agree that we're looking at it from the perspective of manage the behavior, not ban the device.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Patton, you had your hand up as well.
Yes, my question is, from my past experience, VDOT owns almost all of the roads that aren't in private developments. So what has been VDOT's role in the planning process, and then how does your active transportation plan affect the VDOT funding streams, especially the routine funding as opposed to, the TAP program and these federal pass-throughs?
Yeah, VDOT has been involved as a stakeholder in the planning process. Obviously, they're a very important stakeholder. As far as their funding is concerned, they they provide a lot of, as you know, the funding for the routine maintenance, the repaving, and our goal is that Active Fairfax will be a guide that we can point to say that this is the menu of facilities you should be choosing from as you look to make this street more pedestrian friendly, more friendly to all kinds of active transportation users. And we are trying to work with, and we expect to continue to work with VDOT as much as possible to implement what's in Active Fairfax.
Sandy, thank you for your time. I know many of us have been so excited that Active Fairfax is out. That is a major, I think, achievement, and we're really excited to see what comes through that process. So we'll make sure to share out the link to continue soliciting feedback on the Active Fairfax plan.
Couple more, like 2 weeks. To the
To the
20th.
20th.
Yeah.
So glad to share out your materials with our follow-up. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Great. Our final presentation is from Prince George's County. I see we've got Sean and Bob online. We'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I think that'll work. And yeah, can everybody hear me and see my screen successfully?
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, fantastic. Well, yes, first of all, great to meet a lot of you. This is the first time meeting a lot of this group. And I'm really, really happy and proud to be here and proud to be part of the Prince George's County Parks and Recreation Department. Bob Patton, Ellen Huffman, and myself are trails planners. Bob Patton is the trails program manager, as many of you know. Ellen Huffman and myself are planners supporting all of the work we do together to really improve the lives and experiences of people who live and visit Prince George's County. So I will go ahead and talk about what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about a little bit of it and then give it over to Bob to speak a little bit about the second half of what we're going to discuss today. So yeah, we're going to talk about trail data, this thing called Trail Finder you probably haven't heard of, trail bridges in our county and trail wayfinding in our county, and give you an update about each. So if I need to convince you, I will do so right now and tell you that data is important when you are planning and trying to build trails. It informs all stakeholders, and that's really, really important. Better trail data will improve management and experience in several ways. So what do I mean by better data? Simply put, I mean accurate locations and complete characteristics. You want to know what's where and what it is. Three really quick bullet points about how our trail data and improving it will improve our experiences. Maintenance, HOA, park staff, they can all much more clearly, point and look and see who's responsible for that piece and go out and actually touch it, reference it on a map, reference it in data, and be confident. Speaking of confidence, when we keep providing good data, we keep adding good information, and we keep responding to feedback about corrections and improvements, those users will start to further and have greater trust in the data we provide. And that's a good thing. We want people using that information. And finally, we want to track and report our progress. I think everyone in this group knows how difficult that can really be, especially when things are in such a flux in planning. But just look at the first slide. Look how much time we spent on those summaries, those numbers, right? Better data will help us get better numbers, and we can have a better conversation about them. A little bit more about data. We've been increasing our trail layer accuracy. That layer is available on PG Atlas. You can download it, you can stream it, you can do all sorts of different stuff with it. Part of increasing our trail accuracy was identifying, tons of miles, tens of miles. I don't know the exact number, but double-digit number of miles that developers went out and built. We hadn't mapped them, whether they hadn't submitted, we hadn't caught up, whatever. That includes 85 loop trails in our park system. There are even more loop trails outside of our park system, but we have a handle on 85 of them. That's 22 more than we had figured out like just a couple years ago. We've created an internal trail planning tool, and it's fun that Laurel showed the Oxen Cove trail and the Oxen Cove Bridge, because that's the same screenshot I'm kind of showing here, where you can look at important factors when you're trying to plan trails, like floodplain, property ownership, easements, all sorts of different things. And being able to speak to one thing very clearly among a large group of people is going to be helpful. We're working on verifying existence of bridges and boardwalks using lots of GIS processes. Like, we know where bridges are, we know where streams are, we know where trails are. Let's see if we have it all figured out. And we're also working to identify different assets, trailheads, kiosks, parking, all those things that the users want to know before they go to a trail or to convince them to visit the trail. Finally, last thing I'll present on here for y'all is the Trail Finder. This is new. This is so new, it's not even alpha. It's just like being fiddled with more or less and collaborated on internally. But it is intended to be an interactive tool to help people, get to a trail and use a trail. I know Fairfax County has their Trail Buddy app. This isn't the same, but I think that's a really good model and a really good idea. And I think that hopefully we can serve our public in a similar way. It's deep in the development process. Like, it's still just, dragging boxes around and making sure things are showing up correctly. But we're at the point where this is a good group to maybe call some focus group participants. If you're interested in giving your feedback and giving your advice and making a better experience possible for the public, I'm really interested. We are all really interested in hearing from you. Please reach out to myself, Bob, Ellen, whoever you can remember or want to reach out to. And yeah, we will figure out a way to get you involved. I will go to the next slide and hand it over to Bob so he can speak to some bridge inventory.
Yes, our staff did a bridge inventory, but it was 12, 13 years ago, and it was compiled on paper. And Ellen, who's not able to stay to the end of the day here, has done a great job of getting that data on paper back into an electronic file that we can sort and use with the group and put into our asset management database that serves the whole park system. So a lot of our bridges are coming to the end of their life, and in the last few years, we've been discovering that one at a time. And so we're trying to get the inventory together so that we can then do inspections and we can prioritize and project what our bridge replacement and repair needs are going to be. We do some coordination with Montgomery County on this because we're all part of MNC PPC, and they've experimented with some new decking materials, which we're going to be looking at potentially using as slippery bridge decks has been one of our most reported problems that trail users have run into. So we can go on to the next slide. So it's taken a long time, but we are going to implement a wayfinding sign system that will include the trail names and all the information you need to not get lost. And if you have a problem, know who to call and know how to tell them where you are. So this is kind of the family of signs. We can go to the next slide. We are going to be putting signs on a trail that's not 100% managed by Park and Planning, the Rhode Island Avenue Trolley Trail, which 3 of our cities are the lead managers of that trail. And one of our big issues is the fact that our trail system is very connected, and people don't usually know when they're going into a different jurisdiction and going into situation where there would be different police and different people mowing the lawn and different people responsible to fix the bridge and so on and so forth. So we're going to start providing more of that information in the trail system so people can know what's going on. Our wayfinding to destinations is going to be very comprehensive. We can go to the next slide. We're covering about 45 miles of trail. I forgot to amend this map, but the part of Sligo Creek Trail that's in Montgomery County is not going to be included in this effort. But it's still about 45 miles in Prince George's County. And you can see we're going to have 720 fingerboard panels throughout the trail system telling people where to turn to go to various kinds of frequent destinations. So it's going to be very useful for transportation as well as recreation. We'll have park destinations, historic destinations. It'll help with tourists who are looking for feature facilities in our communities to visit and how to find food and drink and everything you need on a trail system, like water, bathrooms, and playground for the kids you're hauling in that bike trailer. So we're really excited about this. Going to cost about $2.3 million because we don't have anything like this out there today. And we're putting it in all in one big shebang on the Anacostia River system. Next slide. We're at the point where
Yep.
is that it? We're going
Yeah.
into the procurement process. Our design is completed and we have the money set aside. So we're just going through the routines of how to procure the right consultants to fabricate and help us install the system. Thank you. We're very happy to be asked to present and participate in this.
Great. Well, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Bob. We're excited that Prince George's County has a team of trail planners. I'm excited to continue seeing good growth in your trail network.
Bob, how long will it take to implement the sign project?
That's a good question. We're looking at two different procurement processes, one that would be less time in procurement, but it might be more time in installing the signs on the ground. We're not going to know until we put out the proposal how long the contractors think that it's going to take to put in that many signs in that big of a location. We haven't never done anything like this, so we have numbers that we think we can put out in a bid, and we have drawings. We know where all the signs are going to go, which type of signs are going where, but it's hard to know how long it's going to take people to put it in. And it would take different contractors and fabricators different amounts of time depending on how many staff and how much equipment they have to throw at it at once. So that's a little up in the air. We're hoping to get it out on the street, possibly in 3 months, possibly in 4 or 5 months. Our procurement processes are none of them are really streamlined. And that's competitive bidding on the public sector side. And I'm expecting it's gonna take 4 or 5 months to install everything, but it's hard to know for sure.
Thanks.
And then there was a question in the chat from Eric about commenting that the signage builds nicely on the MPS system already on the ART. Any chance this becomes the norm elsewhere in Montgomery County? Sort of what's the status? And I don't know if you'll have answers to any other sort of jurisdictional folks. I think from what I understand, this is sort of like a yes, and we need jurisdictions sort of pushing their own designs, and then with the hopes, I think, that like you're like, oh, that actually looks really good. Maybe we'll do that too. But it's sort of impossible to do all together. And so I for one am happy to see Prince George's County really kind of plowing ahead with this and at least giving us something to be able to respond to. And yeah, maybe it catches on and we all look back in 15 years and we're all using the exact same, fonts and all this. That would be
Very
awesome.
optimistic.
But yeah, so someone's got to be the first to go ahead here. So
I designed the sign system for the Anacostia River Trail in the district, and they're probably really the first to go out and implement that. And fortunately, in that project, there wasn't a big constraint on funding. And so the quality of the signs that were done there was high quality and the volume, but there were some planned signs that didn't happen. So it still has some shortcomings in it. The sign system doesn't do a very good job of telling you what the name of the trail is that you're on. And we are hoping that this will set some kind of maybe aspirational standard. Signage, to do really high quality signage, is quite expensive. To do the typical highway signage, we have a whole set of everything's already figured out, and it's on very inexpensive materials and stuff, and it covers the basics. But most of the time when the park system is involved and you have both parks and trails, and the park agency is often oriented more so than transportation to want to brand itself and to want to make itself look good and attractive to the public. Whereas the transportation agency is just trying to accomplish function, and that's it. And so our director has really supported the idea of something that really calls attention to the trail system and calls out what we have to offer now that it's all really connected along the Anacostia. Unfortunately, all agencies don't have the same budgetary resources. Prince George's County is actually quite fortunate the way the tax structure is set up. And we've been able to save enough money to do this big effort. Montgomery County, we see Montgomery as in a wealthier county, but the way the park system is funded in Montgomery County, they have a lot less money to work with. And so I'll let them explain their priorities, but I know that everybody's not really in the same situation. We do not have any involvement of our public works department. And so fortunately, since we manage the vast majority of the Anacostia Trail system in the county, we're going ahead with branding it and signing it, but there's not going to be signed bike routes because that needs to be done by the state and the county transportation agencies. So there's still something left to do to really have a more comprehensive wayfinding system that serves micromobility. And there's going to be a lot of need to deal with cross-agency and interjurisdictional coordination, and how do we do branding? How do we make this stuff look the way it looks on the freeway system, which means it looks the same and you can understand it and trust it. But anyway, that's my dissertation on signage.
Great.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you very much. Excited to share out. So I see we have just a couple minutes left here. I did want to make sure that we get some time to continue asking questions, including if there are questions about earlier presentations or broader questions about the Capitol Trails Coalition. I wanted to pull up a couple other items just to share with the group. So let me see here to share. Oh, here we go. Wanted to make sure that call attention that earlier this year, WABA presented one of our great representatives in the Capital Trails Coalition from the National Park Service. David DiDio was awarded the Jack Cazella Trail Champion Award. Got a QR code here and I'll send a link around. If you'd like to add a personal note, congratulating David. David, like many of you, have been deeply involved in a lot of the work especially to fund and to be strategic about how we are piecing together trail connections and support at various levels to make the network really come together. So I will send that out and add a note to the chat. But then also wanted to make sure that we are hearing from you. Just as a heads up, some things that we are thinking about really high level for next year is about how the Capital Trails Coalition can support your ongoing projects, specific infrastructure, how we can help garner additional community support and feedback as you're working on projects, where we can help support your funding proposals, whether that's a state project or a state proposal, federal proposal. Also want to be thinking about how we can support larger campaigns. I know we're really excited about state trails offices and how that can play a role in the work that we do in our regional network. So of course, the Virginia State Office of Trails, we're excited that Maryland has a Trails Advisory Committee, and we want to be working to support them. And we're also working on how we can better engage the coalition community members. So just a high level, we'll provide lots more information, but with that background, I want to turn it over to you. Morris, I see you've got your hand raised. Morris, over to you.
Oh, there we go.
All right, looks like you're unmuted and we can see you. The question didn't go through. Morris, if you had a question for us, we didn't hear it. Could you repeat it for us?
Any comments or questions in the room, or any other folks raise your hand while we're waiting for Morris here to get.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear my name. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I'm from the Coalition for the Capitol Crescent Trail and very interested in the Prince George's person talking about signage, because when the Capitol Crescent Trail is expanded from Bethesda to Silver Spring, we'll be working actually with 3 jurisdictions or 3 agencies, district, and actually National Park Service. So that's 2, Montgomery County Parks, which is 3, and the Maryland State Highway Administration, which is 4. And they're going to be in charge of the stretch between Bethesda and Silver Spring, paralleling the Purple Line. So one of the issues is figuring out how to coordinate with everyone. There is interest by the different agencies in coordinating, but if you have any tips on how to coordinate, that would be great. And we continue to it's a very popular walking trail as well, and we continue to have some tension between walkers and bike riders and e-bike users, each of which get on each other's nerves to some extent. So I don't know if you have any comments on dealing with that.
Yeah.
I really like what people said about the e-bikes in terms of trying to manage behavior, not the device, but the devices are out of control in terms of being variable and powerful. Some things are being built now and sold that, you know, can go 30 miles an hour, and it's called a bike and it has pedals, you know, to make it qualify, but it's essentially a motorized scooter. And we have a police force in our department. It's a fairly good sized police force, but we have a really big county, and they have to drive cars from one call to the other to visit the different parks where there are issues. And it's just not possible to have enough people on the trail that are police. So, you know, we haven't had any major problems now, but I'm a little worried about it, and I'm out on the trail system, and we've had people go by us when we're out working that are on actual motorbikes, and they're gone before you could ever chase them down. So it's a tough situation. Regarding signage, I guess probably at some high level, there is a need to call the agencies together and say, can we do something here that isn't each single agency's standard on signage? Because trails cross over jurisdictional boundaries constantly. And to change the look of the signs because you're on a different agency's jurisdiction, it doesn't help the trail users really understand what's going on. So I feel for you. I don't have a quick and dirty solution, but I'm glad we keep talking about it, and we need to continue to push it up the ladder to a high level of people to think more creatively and potentially make some agreements and try something better that can cross jurisdictional boundaries but not be the absolute cheapest and highway oriented signage system. Eric.
And Ann.
Yeah, last week, Bike Maryland had a really good webinar. Bike AAA and Annapolis Anne Arundel talked about their Cycling Without Age program. So this is international thing, but there are chapters all over the U.S. where they have trishaws. It's a way to get people that are older, disabled, just sort of have mobility issues out on the trail network. And there are 10 reasons why it's a great idea, but the 11th is it really puts our talk about inclusiveness into the real world. And there's some folks in both DC and Montgomery County interested in getting one of these things started. I've sort of stuck my nose in. If anyone's interested, let me know. Callie's talked about it. There's another meeting coming up, and the webinar can be seen on the Bike Maryland site if it's already been posted.
Thanks, Eric.
Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. Okay, great. Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Ann O'Neill. I'm an outdoor recreation planner with the National Park Service with the RTCA program. And I just wanted to put a plug in that March 1st is our annual deadline for our free technical assistance. Right now, our team is providing support for the Fairlawn Walking Trail, which you guys also know as the Shepherd Branch Trail. So just to give you guys an example, when you're thinking of projects that might need help, and I guess for Morris, one of the things we do is we can be a neutral convener. So we're an external program. And a sister program of ours is the stateside LWCF program, to give you guys an example. So we could help with facilitation or convening or helping you with a project in terms of creating a smaller coalition or alliance to do that work. So yeah.
Glad to share information.
You can share, yeah. So let us know. We're doing scoping calls right now, so we'd love to talk to you guys. And the website is www.nps.gov, and then it's /RTCA. And the application is there, so you can check it out.
Awesome. That is, I feel like, a great way to close out our meeting here. Thank you, everybody. I do want to encourage folks to use our Google group. I want it to feel more like a forum and not just me posting. So as events or other thoughts or questions come up, I encourage you to use that space or send it to me, and I'm glad to share it out. We will share a recording and meeting notes following today's session. But again, want to thank you for all the work over 2024 and look forward to ongoing work.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.